Trevor. Trevor.
I hear a voice
Yes, Trevor. Listen,
of
before
somebody I do not want to talk to,
I
but
know, I know.
I'll be responsible here. Yes, yeah. Is
Yes,
that
this
you,
is
Don?
it is
Don,
me.
is that
It is
you?
Trevor, it is me. Listen, before we start the show, this
Yes.
is this is I don't know if you know this. This is gonna be our Valentine's Day episode.
Oh
And
God.
yeah, we're close to Valentine's Day here when we record this.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to be sad or lonely or not have a gift from someone. So Trevor, I have a gift for you.
Trevor, Todd Stashwick here. This is kind of an intervention. Uh, uh, I play Captain Liam Shaw on the show with this ship. This is an intervention. So, the number one host of the No Win Scenario podcast, Don, wanted me to reach out to you, the second best host of the show, and he wants me to tell you to stop calling him. You are. He's a little tired of hearing about your love for Star Trek and beyond Genesis, whatever you call it. I mean, I'm not a nerd. So he wants me to say, hey, can you knock it off with all the Trek stuff? It's a little too much. The Picard stuff, it's a little too much. Look, I understand it. I completely get your devotion to a franchise with maybe the finest captain in Starfleet. But Don's he's had it up to here. So
It's only 4 feet because that's how tall Don is.
So put it on ice. Cool your jets. Stop being such a nerd. And you're a terrible sci-fi fan. And he says that you have zero class. His words, not mine. I just want you to know that that I appreciate your Trek love and all of your nerdiness. This is him. I'm just the messenger. Don't phaser the messenger. Do you understand what I'm saying? But in the meantime, I hope our paths cross in the future. Live long and prosper.
There you go. Happy Valentine's Day, Trevor.
I want
Because I don't know when your birthday is, so I don't care. So I figured.
in post production, get ready to beep this out. You are such a. You are such a. People will still be able to read my lips. Huge. But I loved it. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
I think that's the first time you've put even a penny towards my entertainment. And I know that was so hard for you. Very, very difficult. And I genuinely thank you for that. That was very, very funny. And could I get a copy, please?
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm thinking we should put this up on our website,
Are you kidding me?
nowindscenariopodcast.com.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So everyone go check it out. And look, Trevor, let's get on with the show.
Sounds great. I haven't listened to anything you've said in the last 20 seconds.
Damn it, Trevor.
Oh, God, I hate you so much.
Well, it's you. We can cross off the reading.
I watch almost everything, and the majority of it is terrible.
What is this podcast about?
My recorder keeps turning off.
Damn it, Trevor. Hi, everyone, and welcome to No Win Scenario Podcast. I am Don, and with me is my little sidekick, Trevor.
The little sidekick, who I think is at least 2 feet taller than you.
At least 2 feet taller, and according to my daughter, a couple of decades older too. So some of us age better than others.
I hate you.
Well, that was quite a long little cold open we had with Todd Stashwick. So I'm very excited to get to our guest today, David Mack.
But before we do that,
what's coming?
you know what time it is?
Oh God. What time?
Trevor's Tangent. Okay, we're going to break the format a little bit. I'm going to involve Don in this, and believe it or not, this actually is science fiction related. In 1999, a little clever satire parody film came out called Galaxy Quest.
Love it.
And I saw it maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I hated it.
Well, of course, because you hate anything that normal people like.
It was terrible.
What?
A few nights ago, the Alamo Drafthouse in Boston was having a repertory screening of Galaxy Quest.
Mhm.
A friend asked me to go. She said, listen, I love this movie. It's hilarious. I told her I didn't like it. She said, you're insane. Come with me. Give it another try. I said, fine. Give it another try. Within 10 minutes, I realized
You were wrong.
that this film
It's brilliant.
is so clever
So clever.
and so funny
One of the best Star Trek movies ever.
and so well written.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go further. I'm going to suggest that the film even has a deep layer to it. It's so clever and well done that I honestly felt that I was seeing a group of people, that there was this underlying theme here, a group of people who, other than their ego, really didn't have much at stake, but then were put into a situation where they really had to learn as actors what improvisation really means. And improvisation when stakes are on the line, like the eradication of an alien race, and it's just there under the surface on top of all of this just humor, well staged direction. I will argue, even though it was kind of satirical, I would argue that the production design and the special effects were very good and served its purpose. I was dead wrong about the film. Galaxy Quest is very clever, very smart, very funny. If you haven't seen it, which I'm sure everybody who listens to this podcast, 5 of you, have seen it.
Trevor.
Trevor. It's a very good film.
Trevor. You have wasted minutes of our audience's valuable time where you're the only person on this planet who thought the movie was bad in their lifetime and who hasn't seen it in the last 15 years.
Well, maybe this is my way of trying to win a couple listeners on my side, you know.
We'll keep working on it. We'll keep working on it.
Thank you. Let's keep working on it.
And
that is the end. Well, are you happy for me that I liked it?
We're all happy that this conversation is over. So can we end it, please?
And that's it for Trevor's Tangent.
Fantabulous. Okay, and with that, I am super excited to talk to our next guest, Dave Mack. So everyone stay tuned.
I was so excited when this person was announced because I actually knew who they were.
And be ready.
I can't wait. This is so good. I can't wait.
It's great. And Trevor admits to having read
a book.
Who knew?
Period. A book. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm David Mack. I'm a New York Times bestselling author of science fiction, fantasy, and adventure, most of it for Star Trek over the years. I've also written for Star Trek on television, for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I've been a creative consultant for Star Trek Prodigy, Star Trek Lower Decks, Star Trek Discovery. I'm working on a number of different projects at the moment, some of them with Star Trek, some of them original. And I've written for Trek in pretty much every format you can think of, except for feature film. I've written for video games, comic books, short fiction, reference works, CD-ROMs, computer games, TV. I mean, at this point, really, I've done just about everything but feature film. I even wrote stuff for what was going to be a live touring theatrical production featuring the music of Star Trek, but it got canceled because it was being produced during the COVID era, and the pandemic basically just wiped out all the pre-sales and ended up shutting down the show. But it was going to be this European-based production. So I've written for Star Trek professionally now since 1995, maybe even a little earlier than that if you take into account some work I did for the books office as a freelancer. So I've been working professionally in one capacity or another for Star Trek for nearly 30 years.
It's amazing. And my bookshelf at home is just stacked with your books over the years up there with everything else. So it's thank you so much for joining us. And you got to imagine that writing a Trek book is much more limiting in terms of what you can do than something completely original on your own, or is that not the case at this point?
I know a lot of people think, the bigger it gets, the more stories that are told, the more canon that's established. they think that that makes it harder to tell stories in the Star Trek universe. In fact, the more developed the universe becomes, the easier it becomes to develop new stories within it, because the canvas gets bigger, the cast gets bigger, the known facts in evidence get bigger, and sometimes each thing you establish, each fact you establish in canon, rather than cutting off opportunities, it often raises new questions. Each fact you establish raises 2 or 3 new questions that could be springboards for stories. So I have not actually found working in Star Trek to be limiting. I have actually found the expansive growth of the franchise over the last few decades to have been a great spur to creativity.
Before we get into Star Trek and certain properties specifically, I would like to know, what is your writing workflow process? Is it a daily thing? Do you have certain hours set for it? Don't interrupt me during these hours. What's it like? What's the discipline?
It has changed over the years. When I first started out, I was working full time at NBC and the Sci-Fi Channel. I was the editor of sci-fi.com back before it became Sci-Fi. And so I would work, I'd get up early in the morning and go to work in the city, work all day, sometimes into the evening, because hours could be just, crazy when you're working in television and especially working in marketing. And then I would come home and deal with, home-related business, dinner, dishes, paying the bills, dealing with the cats, all that sort of thing. And then I would usually get to work, around 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'd work till about 1 or 2 in the morning and, write what I could, and then get up at 7 or 8 the next morning, go back to work and do it all again. I did that for 8 years. The first 8 years of, my novel writing career, my book writing career, that was how it worked. And then basically I was working full time. I was writing books at night, put my wife through grad school. And then once she was out of grad school and into her new profession, the deal we had made was, once she's employed, I wanted out of the corporate sector. I had done 17 years in corporate America and I was done. I had saved a lot of money to sort of, facilitate the translation, the transition into freelance life. So I wasn't going in unprepared. And this was just the deal we made. So she got a job right out of grad school. I left Sci-Fi in May of 2008 and went freelance. So coming up, 15 and a half years ago. And since then, what happened was, because my brain had been programmed to write at night, I found that was when I write. I had sort of just, the pathways got ingrained over 8 years. So even when I left the job, I still don't write during the day. I don't usually write when the sun is up. Daytime hours I use for other aspects of running my business as a writer. I use the daytime hours for things like promotion, social media, paying my bills, dealing with taxes, dealing with corporate paperwork on the state level, depending on where I'm doing business, meetings with editors, via Zoom, meeting with editors in person in the city, dealing with also just domestic business around the house, running my day-to-day life. I basically run the house so that my wife can do what she does in a very demanding medical field. So
my follow-up question to that is that their life gets in the way.
Always.
And there are days where there's a lot of stress, or days when something out of the blue happens.
That's almost every day.
And so when you sit down to write that night, how do you separate that out of your writing workflow so that it doesn't necessarily affect what you're writing? Does that make any sense?
Vaguely. I'm just going to go with I drink.
And I was going to say follow-up to the follow-up is, when do you sleep? But
I sleep probably usually about 4 a.m. to about noon.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think, Trevor, if I could translate maybe for you, because the ER gibberish is just not making any sense. I think what Trevor's getting at is, how do you not have what happens in your daily life affect what you're going to be writing? So if you have the plan to write whatever part of whatever story that you're working on coming up, how do you not emotionally get distracted by what's happened during the day and have
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes a day is just a wash,